Well, I think we can get going here this morning. Would like to start out by saying good morning to everybody. Afternoon to some, for any of you further east. Welcome to the third Speaking of Oats session. My name is Eric DeBleek with Gray Millers. I also serve as the Vice Chair for the Oat Global Board. Oat Global is a public-private partnership committed to improving resiliency, quality, and the value of oats by coordinating pre-competitive research, breeding communications, and extension on a global scale. Speaking of Oats, it is a collaboration that has been and is being put on by the Oat Newsletter and Oat Global. It's really being organized by Charlene White with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada and Dr. James Bradeen with the University of Minnesota. I would like to say thank you to both of them for all the work they've done thus far. This has been great. We will be using the chat function today for any questions that come up for any of our presenters. So at any time, if you do have questions, please submit any of those through the chat function. We'll be hosting a dedicated Q&A towards the end for all of our speakers. One other recognition that I would like to put out this morning is we have Andres Gutierrez with us today, who's a postdoc with Stephen Harrison, who is helping with any translation needs that we may have this morning. So would like to say thank you to him. So our topic today is going to be focused around the International Oat Nursery, and we have three great speakers to give us some discussions and provide some Q&A for that. I will turn it over to Steve Harrison from LSU to help introduce our speakers and get us going.
Good morning, everyone, and it's a pleasure to have you aboard. I'm Stephen Harrison, the wheat and oat breeder with Louisiana State University and coordinator of the International Oat Nursery, formerly the Quaker International Oat Nursery. We have two speakers today that are both cooperators and contributors to that nursery. The first speaker will be Mónica Mathias. She is an oat breeder in Chile with INIA. I forget if it's INIA or INTA. And the second speaker will be Liliana Wehrhahne, and she is an oat breeder in Argentina. So with that, I give you Mónica.
I am going to start.
Yes, go ahead and share.
Well, hello, everybody. I want to say thanks to James and Charlene for inviting me to this session of Speaking of Oats. I am going to talk about the INIA breeding program and the International Oat Nursery. And the oats in Chile. In oats, the oats in Chile are a traditional breakfast cereal, similar to other places of the world, but in the last few years, oat has been included in various salty and sweet recipes, becoming fashionable. The properties of oats are valued by Chilean people that want to keep a healthy lifestyle, reduce its cholesterol level, and control blood glucose. Oat crop production is diverse. Dual purpose, grazing and grain for food use exclusively, hay and silage. Oat crops with low input of fertilizers are occasionally used to clean the soil from pests and like inter-row crop in fruit trees. The importance of oat in Chile is that oats are export product, the crop rotation, forage for livestocks in autumn and winter. And the main producer area in Chile is La Araucanía and nearby regions like Biobío. Is the land of the beauty millenary Araucarias, the main cereal production area. These are the Araucarias. We have 2 days ago a total eclipse in the area, and we have Mapuche indigenous communities. Well, this is the oat is the second crop in area in Chile after the wheat, and 50% of the area is in the La Araucanía region. This year, we have around 111,000 hectares. And the production was 500,000 tons, and the average yield of the crop is 5 tons by hectare, depending of the area of Chile. The processed oats are about 200,000 tons, that corresponds to $91 million, and 47% are flakes, and 31% of the total is growth. We have 22 oat processing companies, 10 of which concentrate 89% of export. 60 to 100% of the volume processed is exported, depending on the company. The main overseas markets are Peru, Colombia, and Guatemala. The export of oats in Chile are steadily increased over the time. And Chile, in the global market, is the first like exporter of growth, with near to 50% of the exportations, and is in the fourth place in flake exporters, after Canada, Germany, and United Kingdom. This slide is for show that these are the number of farms by size. Unfortunately, the data is old, from the 1997 year. 19% of the farms in Chile are small business and subsistence farms, and near to 50% of the area corresponds to big farms. This is a slide about the history of the breeding in Chile. The oat breeding in Chile starts in 1950 with the German settlers that bring the first varieties to Chile. And between these years, there was a introduction of varieties and studies about oat planting date and seeding rate. And these are examples of varieties. And in 1965, the genetic improvement itself begins through INIA until present. Segregating material, F2 and F3 created abroad, is introduced, and a hybridization program begins, and with this, creation of segregating material in the country. New INIA varieties are released. This is the oat breeding program's objectives. The baseline target are the high yield potential and stability, grain quality for food, resistant to tolerance to diseases and plant type, like plant age, tolerance to lodging, precocity, among others. A specific project, we have development and research in beta-glucan and protein content, and we developed 3 projects in this area. And currently we have a low gluten content project for selecting gluten-free oat genotypes. This is a scheme of the oat breeding in INIA. We have 4 ways to produce or create breeding lines: by introduction of germplasm. Within this germplasm, majority is the nursery, the International Oat Nursery, segregant population and breeding lines and cultivars. We do hybridization and selection in the field, and we have a starting exploratory trial, preliminary trial of yield, and a regional trial in 3 environments by 3 years, and agronomy trials. The time is about 5 to 13 years depending of the type of method. This is some photos of the greenhouse when we do the single seed descent selection in the field. Molecular markers only we do per project. This is a starting exploratory trial, and the beta-glucan measurements and other compounds only per project. This is a photo about the regional trial. We have evaluations only in the main area of production, in the south of Chile. This is in the north and the south. And I'm going to talk about the contribution of the International Nursery in the creation of new varieties by selection in introduced segregant populations. We have these examples: America, Urano, Pluton, Saturno, INIA, that were adopted varieties by the growers and were developed by selection in F3 and pure lines of the nursery. Neptuno INIA, and the more important variety currently is Supernova INIA, that arrived to Chile by the nursery, and it's a New Zealand line, and this variety is the most adopted in Chile. It's near to 80% of the area. This is a photo of the nursery in Carillanca this year in November. The genotypes have important attributes like the precocity, tolerance to diseases, crown rust, oidium, grain industrial quality, and panicle morphology types. The uses that we do of these genotypes are selection in segregant progenies, selection of pure lines directly, and crosses. And this is a summary of the germoplants that was planted in this year. We have 25 breeding lines in microplots, 9 breeding lines in preliminary trial, 22 F1 families, 4 F3 populations, F4 and F5 population, and the nursery that correspond to the photo. Some field observation this year is a high incidence of barley, yellow dwarf virus, low incidence of oidium and crown rust, and plants are in milky grain stage currently. We have a water deficit this season, about 20% in average of all the La Araucanía region. Important aspects of participating in the International Nursery is the facilitated exchange of germoplasm, opportunities for creating networks and collaborations, meet distinguished OAT scientists, opportunity to be part of American OAT workers, creation and release of successful OAT varieties. And these are photos of the 2 visits of Dr. Stephen Harrison and the Quaker team. They are here in a Jupiter INIA crop in a commercial crop. Our future prospect, we are working in the creation of 2 types of varieties: commodities with high yield, standard grain yield, and for crop rotation, and niche market in beta-glucan, protein, and gluten-free. Our interest is search of new partners and creation of collaboration networks, new research and development projects in the areas of high quality raw materials, clean agriculture friendly to the environment, natural and healthy food, safe, tolerant to drought, development of attractive business models for producers, training of students in practice and thesis, germoplants exchange, and research on molecular marker-assisted selection and genomic selection. This is the network in the last years in different areas in germoplast exchange, varieties development, the niche market, and agronomic evaluations of some agrochemicals. And the acknowledgement, I want to say thanks to the oat breeding program team and all the collaborators per project. Many thanks, and many thanks to hear my presentation.
Thank you very much, Monica. We
I
appreciate it.
am going in the time. I am good.
Yeah, no, you're good. We'll hold questions until everyone is spoken, and then we'll have open questions and discussion.
Have a question, okay?
So if you will stop sharing, Liliana can share and give her presentation.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear us, Liliana?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Oh, we're waiting for you to share your screen and do your talk.
yes. Can I begin?
Yes, please.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to tell you what is our work in Barrow. Thank you to the opportunity to talk for the speaking of Oats. The International Oat Nursery that I will present is at the Barrow station. Barrow is a small station in Argentina. We are located in the south of Buenos Aires province. There are two stations of INTA in the south of Buenos Aires province that works with oats. Chacra Experimental de Barrow and INTA-Borlaug. We are here and Borlaug is here.
Are you sharing, Liliana? I don't see your screen.
Ah, sorry. I am sharing, yes. The rest of people is can
No,
you
we do not see it. Do you try again, please?
you don't see my presentation?
We do not.
Oh.
Do you see the green button at the bottom?
Yes.
Click it and then pick your, there you go. Now you got it.
You can see now?
Yes.
Ah,
Perfect.
okay. Well, sorry. Well, I tell you that we are in the south of Buenos Aires province. Chacra Experimental Integrada Barrow is here. And the other station of INTA is Borlaug is here. The two stations work with oats. Argentina is a very large country, has differences in altitude and latitude, and then it has very different weather conditions. And oats is cultivated in different regions, since the centers of Buenos Aires province to Salta in the north of the country or to the Patagonia valleys. But the region to produce grain is the region of Barrow Station. We have 2 dates of sowing. We plant at the end of the summer till end of January to March or April for forage production, and for grain production in Barrow region is since May to the end of July or August. Argentina planted the last year 1.5 million of hectares, but only harvested 300,000 hectares, producing 600,000 tons. The region of Barrow is the more potential production, but a lot of fields are feed first, and after that they are harvested. Is a crop with multiple uses, like say Mónica. In Argentina, the predominantly feed or hay. One practice that is very common in our region now is whole plant silage. It can be used as a service crop, and for grain, the grain is used for the new seeds, the new planting, for horses, for industry, and to livestock feed. There are some problems that we can manage, and other not. Some problems that we can manage, there are the aphid, some diseases, weeds. We can control with insecticides or fungicides. Is in Barrow area, the use of fungicides for grain production is only when the ear is for stem rust or clam rust, and if it is necessary, we do one fungicide application. Aphids is more common when you plant for forage. And weeds, well, there are not a lot of herbicides, but we can control some weeds that there are no gramíneas we can control. And there are another problem that we cannot manage, that the market price volatility. There are some years that oats has a very high price and very interesting for the farmers, and other years that they cannot sell the production. Other of the problem that we have is the low investment in breeding programs. And of course, the little interest of young people in developing this topic. We really need more people that dedicate time to research in oats, but it's difficult to convince. Another topic is the increasing environment temperature. The last year we are looking that there are 1 degree in the media of the temperatures, and then perhaps the varieties that we have don't function in the future very well. But those are problems, but we have farmers that are interested in crop oats, and they accompany our job. Well, breeding in Argentina is done by INTA, and unfortunately, the last years, University of La Plata beginning again the program of breeding or at breeding, and they are releasing now new varieties too. The objectives that we we have is high yield potential for forage and for grain. Thinking in grain production, we look for high test weight, growth and caliber of the kernels, protein and beta-glucan. Unfortunately, the person who was working with us in quality in oats leave the station, and then we have no anymore. Part of our plan is crosses. We have our own crosses. We received the Quaker OAT Nursery a lot of years, and now the International OAT Nursery. And in 1994 or 1998, we received some Mathias from the program of Dr. Luis Federici, that from the Universidad Federal de Rio Grande do Sul. And we introduced these materials in our crossing block, give hybridization with our lines, and some from the Quaker OAT Nursery. And the last varieties that we released, there are from the crosses of these materials. In 1919, we released one variety that was Bonaerense Payet, and in 1994, Bonaerense INTA Maja, that those were from the Quaker Nursery. And another material that was a segregant population was selected, and finally we released as a variety that was Bonaerense INTA Calen. That was a variety very sown or planted in different regions of Argentina. Bonaerense INTA Calen has a very good production, forage production, and very resistant to frost. That is one of the, or is other of the objective that we have for production. In winter, there are many frost, and we have to select materials with no damage. For grain, the material that sometimes stay in the Quaker International Nursery, we select the not only for yield, but for quality grains. It's very interesting to see in different years the different materials. I remember that at the beginning of my show in Barrow, a lot of lines that stay in the Quaker Nursery were with a long cycle for our conditions. In the map, we can see Barrow and Temuco or Carillanca near, but we have very different conditions of production. We are in the mild, our climate is mild, with temperatures between 15 degrees, a good condition to produce. But since November, we begin to have more temperatures and strong winds that they accelerate the process, the ripening process, and sometimes the grains cannot begin, cannot end very prompt. Some consideration that I want to say about the international nursery is that we can exchange materials and experiences, very, very useful for us. We receive in different opportunities referents and experts of Oats that bring in new ideas of us. Very profitable talks. We receive different materials and with agronomic traits that interesting for us, different size, tall, sanitary behavior. And as I said, we select with good performance for grains. The new varieties, as I said, some are from the program and of the hybridization that we did with the different materials. And we accept and respect the ethic of both, that it was very, very important. Well, this was the last trip, the international OAT team. It was in 2016. This photo is in la estación de INTA Bordenave with Federico and his team, Federico Moreira, the other breeder of old breeder. The variety for industry in our region has a yield between 3.5 to 6 tons per hectare. The test weight 49 to 54 kilograms per hectare, and as I said, depending of the condition in the end of November and December. Caliber between 75 to 82%, and protein 10 to 15%, depending on the fertilizer rate. In Desarrollo, we have some industry that process the oat harvested here, and we are we provide the material to other companies like Quaker. Well, don't pass. I don't know why not advance.
Are you almost done, Liliana?
I think you have the drawing tool selected, which might be a problem.
I can pass the other. Okay. Well, the industry produces our oat and produce flakes, and in this moment we are not exporting, but it's all for the local market. Well, we have good quality of grain because the conditions to have it in our region are good. We can collect grain clear without pathogens. Then we need to add value to the oat grain. We have some industry here, but we need a lot of. We need to develop new products with oats. Well, this exchange experience about the CUOIN or the OAT International Nursery has been very helpful for our country, as I said. In these times of collaboration, the Oats International Nursery is actually an example of contribution between researchers and different institutions. And we must work in order to protect the arrangement. I encourage you, all of you, to continue with this nursery and extend the invitation to the industry and other players of the market of oats to support the breeding program. Unfortunately, we have students that perhaps if he get the grant, will be work with Rust in oats, and it will be very important for us. I mentioned that the diseases in Argentina in oats, the most important are stem rust and crown rust. Sometimes bacteria. This is work that we did with the Universidad Nacional del Sur and Universidad Nacional de Buenos Aires. And in a book, we put the different diseases of oats. Well, I invite all of you to visit our station. I want to thank to Stephen and the collaborator because they send us the nursery, and a lot of times we have some problems with different documents, and still continue and send us the nursery. Thank you very much. And I want to thank to the different researchers and collaborators that visit us, because this permit us to change some ideas, to discuss a lot of questions, and then very thanks to all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Liliana. If you will stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
Thank you. And okay, I will try to go through these fairly quickly. And what I'm going to do is kind of outline operations of the International Oat Nursery. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Well, okay. Objectives of the International Oat Nursery are basically to support programs in the US and Canada and North America and globally by serving as a primary mechanism of oat germplasm exchange between oat improvement programs on an international basis. As part of that, to create and distribute improved and unique germplasm population around the world that has desirable characteristics of yield, milling quality, disease resistance, and genetic diversity, and to evaluate advanced lines and provide useful data to the originating breeders. What we probably need to do with the new International Oat Nursery, which is funded by the USDA now, is expand the focus on serving North American breeding programs while continuing to serve as the International Oat Germplasm Exchange. This is just a snapshot of the 2020 International Oat Nursery that was shipped out last spring. It had only 15 breeders received it due to COVID restrictions and the inability of many of the recipients to get import permits. We anticipate that a lot of the remaining 2020 oat nursery sets will be shipped out with the 2021 nursery in February and March. On a normal basis, there are 36 participants. There are about 30 sets of the International Oat Nursery 2021 that will be packaged. 26 sets were shipped in 2019 versus 15 in 2020. This is a breakdown of recipients. And if you look, you will see, do you see my cursor? No? Okay.
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay. So you will see that there are quite a few countries that participate. The ones in orange are kind of dormant. We have not sent a set to them in the last couple of years. Participation in Canada and the US is very good. A lot of participation in South America with Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Brazil. We are missing participation from quite a few European countries, though, and that may be something we want to look into with the new coordination of the nursery. The International Oat Nursery will be governed by a board of directors. The ones in black are carryovers from the Quaker International Oat Nursery. Melanie and Jason have recently been added, and we need to have a representative from the Oat Global Group. Some things that we might consider with the new International Oat Nursery is to have an organizational Zoom meeting in January and reaffirm or establish operating procedures and guidelines. And we probably need to have something like this meeting, a yearly Zoom at least, to discuss the operation of the nursery. This is a breakdown of a kind of typical International Oat Nursery pre-COVID. And this is the number of lines, where they came from, who contributed them. The blue is all advanced lines. The advanced lines are pure lines that are leaked, that have desirable characteristics in them, that are intended for use as parents, but also can be selected and released if a suitable intellectual property agreement is made with the originating country. And then the bottom group is the segregating populations, normally F2, F3, F4. There were 117 pure lines and 168 segregating populations. You'll notice that a whole lot of those segregating populations come from my program, but it's not nearly as program centric as you might imagine, because over half of my oat crosses every year are made to create populations for the International Oat Nursery. And if you look at them, most of them have sources other than southern winter oat germplasm. This particular cross was 50% Purdue, 25% Texas, 25% Argentina. Here's one that was 50% Brazil, 50% Illinois, 50% Brazil, 50% Wisconsin. So as you can see, most of the populations that I put into the program are from crosses made specifically for the nursery. Possibilities for improving the nursery include coordinated and easily accessible database, which is a challenge because there are so many different users. It would be interesting to have a Zoom nursery tour of a given cooperator or two every year, maybe Zoom discussions 2 to 3 times a year. Liliana and Mónica talked about the in-person nursery tours that we've done in the past, and those are very informative. Eugene with the Cereal Disease Lab has suggested that maybe we should revive the International Oat Rust Nursery with emphasis on oat stem rust, and question whether or not that might be a adjunct to the International Oat Nursery. And I think that's probably a good idea. There are a lot of places that we could go with the International Oat Nursery, depending on the interest of researchers and resources available. We can do some gene integration projects. We're opening up the door to a lot of molecular work with the new PepsiCo oat genome sequence. We're starting to develop molecular markers, and I would love to get my oat program personally to the same point that my wheat breeding program is in terms of genomic selection and molecular marker use. I'll skip these. This is just a yearly cycle of what we do in the program, with the red font indicating things that are done for the International Oat Nursery. We will start making crosses in January. We will finish making about 175 oat crosses in March. We'll ship out the majority of International Oat Nurseries in late February and early March. And a very, very important part of the International Oat Nursery, absolutely critical, is the summer nursery in Idaho, which is coordinated by Kathy Kloss. So we send the summer nursery out in June. We go out in September, take a crew of about 5 people and harvest that nursery with Kathy's help. This is what the this Idaho summer nursery looks like. Typically, there are about 1,600 lines from my program and about 960 from the program of Dr. Ali Babar at the University of Florida. He is a co-coordinator of the International Oat Nursery. The Idaho nursery gives us a pure seed source, high quality, single location that allows us to meet the phytosanitary certificates that are a real challenge to ship to all of the different countries that participate. It also gives me a chance to evaluate entries in the nursery in a spring environment. It gives you a very good opportunity to get tired and dirty. This is Chris Rorter, our farm manager. He goes out to Idaho with me every year as just basically grunt labor, because he enjoys getting away from the heat in the south and going up into the mountains and doing a little fishing. So with that, we'll open it up to questions. This, by the way, is a Southern Oat Association panel of 234 oat lines, a picture I took 2 days ago. And what we did here is we planted randomized replicated plots of 234 lines, historical and modern day oat varieties and breeding lines from the 4 Southern programs, and basically turned deer loose on them. And we're evaluating usage and tolerance. You can see this line was grazed to the ground. This was is absolutely untouched. So very interesting to me. All right. With that, I think we are turn it back over for questions.
So we do have one question in the Q&A box, and if everyone could put their questions there, please, that'd be great. From Ben Schmehe, probably not saying that right either. I'm an oat breeder of a small organic oat breeding program in Germany, and I would like to participate in the nursery. Is that possible? And if yes, how?
That is quite possible. You need to take down my email address and send me an email. It will be at the first slide of my presentation. But basically, anyone can participate as long as they are willing to contribute equally and are willing to sign a agreement on the operating principles that say basically you will share.
And right now, that was the only question we had so far from the attendees. Oh, wait, what's the chat say?
Oh, that's my email, my long email.
We have another question here from Catherine Howarth. Why were you looking for grazing tolerance?
It's an interesting use of oats in the southern US, and that is by hunters to attract deer, to shoot them, and by game management people to provide nutrition to deer over the winter. And so deer, unlike cattle, cannot be rotationally grazed. They come back every day. And so you're looking for an oat that is attractive to them, that produces a lot of forage, and equally importantly, tolerates heavy grazing and keeps regrowing.
Great, thanks. Thank you to all the speakers, by the way. Those were great presentations. We do have more questions now. Ben would also like to know more about the phytosanitary requirements.
Well, the phytosanitary requirements are specific to each country. So Argentina has a different set of requirements than Chile, than Brazil, than Canada. And the phytosanitary certificates issued by APHIS, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, have to meet certain import requirements for each country. Nematodes, diseases, insects, lots and lots of different things. And so based on the requirements of a given country, we have to go out and get the lab tests done to meet those requirements, or to have a certificate saying this weed was not present or this insect was not present.
Okay, and Eugene would like to know how much rust is in Argentina, stem rust in particular?
Liliana, you want to answer that one? Unmute, you're muted. Your mic is muted, Liliana, there you go.
Okay. In Argentina, stem rust is a problem for the grain production. But in the last years, we are looking that sometimes the stem rust is more early than the past years. And this year we saw in the oats for forage planted in March. In May we can see stem rust. I suppose that there is different races that the stem rust that we have in November or at the end of October. But I think that something like curious that all the green graces have a stem rust this year. Lolium, bromus, and other gramíneas has stem rust in August, September. That is very early for our condition. But I remember when I stay in Brazil, 1994, 1998, the stem rust, there's no problem for them. But I think that now they have stem rust.
Thank you, Liliana. So stem rust is a pretty big problem in Argentina and Brazil, a very big problem. For Monica, not so much of a problem because she's much cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And Christian Azar has two questions. One, he wants to know whether the nursery is spring or winter oats. And the second question, did you see some general crown rust tolerance that would provide a certain level of tolerance, although low, to all races?
The nursery is primarily spring and facultative, but there are winter oats and winter hardy oats in the nursery. And it may be that since it's no longer the Quaker International Oat Nursery, but the International Oat Nursery, that we need to include more winter oats in the nursery. In terms of crown rust, horizontal resistance tolerance to a lot of different races, there is some of that, and we probably don't do as good a job of cataloging the data so that we can look at resistance over a large number of environments. But that's certainly something the nursery offers, is the ability to look at the tolerance of a given line in a large number of environments to crown rust, to stem rust, to pyrenophora, to other diseases.
Thanks. Nick says, fantastic, Nick Tinker, this says, fantastic presentations. Just a comment, I wonder if the next version of PanOat, when genomes cost only a few $100s each, hopefully, could be guided by the diversity of germplasm in the ION. I'm curious if the advanced lines in the international nursery focus on milling adapted oats, or if there are pre-breeding lines that may have new traits but are not milling adapted.
Nick, I think the answer to that is both. I mean, for example, all of the new entries in the early and mid-season oat nursery are put into the Quaker nursery every year, and those are going to be high quality spring oats from North America that have been evaluated for milling quality attributes. A lot of other lines that are put in there are tolerant to a given disease, may have a new background. There are lines put in there that we don't really know about.
Okay, Federico Condon says, congratulations for the presentation. We look forward to the continuation of collaboration. Do you think that South America can contribute significantly with disease evaluation? Sounds like yes, but would you like
Absolutely.
to further? Yeah. And Jason Fiedler would like to know, where is all of the historical ION data stored?
There is a Quaker International Oat Nursery website that has the data that we collect, which is not as much as we should be getting. And I need to massage that, but I can certainly send it to you. I don't think we have data that's more than about 10 years old, because I haven't been coordinating it that long.
Thanks. Roger Caspers says, Dr. Harrison, do you know offhand if the variety AC Assiniboia is in the grazing study?
It is not. The grazing study is the Southern Oat Association panel, which is historical and modern varieties and breeding lines from the 4 Southern oat breeding programs. So Assiniboia is not in there.
And Shariar Canyon would like to know, does the nursery get evaluated in buckthorn for crown rust resistance, or can it be evaluated in a buckthorn nursery?
We would be delighted to send you the 100 pure lines every year to evaluate in the buckthorn nursery. There'd be no point, of course, in evaluating the segregating populations.
So yeah, so Shariar to send it. Yes, more work for Shariar. That's great. Good, thanks. That's the questions we have in the Q&A. Jennifer Mitchell-Fetch had a note here. Perhaps Pablo Campos could provide information about stem rust in Argentina. Is he on the call? I don't know. Oh,
You're muted, Liliana.
Pablo Campos has some information about rust. Probably he will direct the person who will work with stem rust. We did sometimes trips to collect rust, but thinking more in crown rust than in stem rust. But this year we collect some samples of stem rust, thinking in the possible pupil of doctorate that work with oats.
What we might consider for future nurseries is to include a set of stem and crown rust differentials for those cooperators that want to grow it and take notes on it. Not for everyone to do, but for those people that have a rust problem and would be willing to take notes, that would be interesting.
again, that's it for questions. Oh, wait, there's another message. Okay. Isabel de Blanco says, thank you for the great presentations. We have the ION nurseries planted in, they were planted in Davis, so California last month. So that's great to hear too.
Great.
So, and that's, I guess we're close to the end of our time. Jim, did you you have a little ad there for the next Speaking of Oats? Did you want to say something?
Sure, absolutely. I dropped this in the chat for everybody. Our next Speaking of Oats will be January 21st at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll hear about the T3 database and applications to oat. And so Jean-Luc Janik, Clay Burkett, and David Wehrhahne will be our speakers. And we'll announce the registration soon through email as well as through the Oat News. And thank you all for participating today. A special thank you to all of our panelists. Really interesting conversations this morning.
Well, it's a very enjoyable program. I think it's beneficial to everyone that participates, and we wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Yes, happy holidays to everyone. And Steve did put his address in the chat. So anyone who wants to join the ION, go for it.
No, it's open. It's open to private breeders as well as public programs. You just have to be approved by the board of directors.
And speaking of boards, Eric, do you have anything from Oat Global to add to wrap up?
Nope, nothing this morning other than thank you, everyone. Like Charlene and Jim said, information on the next event is out, and we'll be sending out some more information and registration for that shortly. Other than that, happy holidays and happy new year to everyone.